My name is Jack Meyer, and I'm an interviewer for the Public Library of Cincinnati and Hamilton County. I'm interviewing Mr. Fernando W. Hersman today, November 2nd, 2006, at the Blue Ash Branch Library. Our camera operator today is Joel Corneli. Also present is Mr. Hersman's wife, Jill. Mr. Hersman, we really appreciate your coming in today to help with this effort to get the stories of World War II veterans on tape. We invite you to begin where you like, but it would be good to start with a little bit of your early background, how you ended up in the service, what your early training was briefly, and then tell us about your activities when you're overseas. Okay?
Okay. Born in Cincinnati and 1922, and went through the educational system here. Graduated from Hughes High School, 1940, and we were at downtown at a movie on December the 7th, 1941, and when we came out of the movie, I can't quite remember whether there was an extra newspaper or what it was, but we immediately knew that we were at war with Japan, that they had attacked Pearl Harbor. The fellow with me was Melvin Rosenberger, and one of the other fellows that we bummed around with was George Leftwich. And at the time, I was working at Procter & Gamble and going to University of Cincinnati at night. And we decided to join the Navy. Almost a spur-of-the-moment decision, but everybody had a strong feeling about being attacked. And we did. We went to the Naval Recruitment Station in the Federal Building downtown, and to make a long story short, they were accepted, and I, because of my eyes, wasn't accepted in the Navy. So they went off to Great Lakes Naval Training Station, and I went back to Procter & Gamble school until 1942. And in November, I was inducted into the Army. And we were shipped down to Camp Shelby, Mississippi, to the 31st Division, Dixie Division, infantry, primarily Southern men from Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Georgia. So we were inculcated here into basic training, and that was about a year of infantry training, and also I was in 2nd Battalion, Company G, and I was called out one day, and they said, the Major Cooney wants to see you in the medical corps. And I went over there, and he interviewed me, and he explained what the medical corpsmen do and what the training was, and mentioned that you wouldn't have to take so many 20-mile hikes with a 30-pound pack, and I was sold on that. So,
how do you think they picked you out to be interviewed? Do you know?
You know, I don't know. No, the only thing that maybe was a factor was by this time on my discharge, the back of the discharge, I noticed that I had 2 years of college. Mm-hmm. That might have been a factor. I don't know. So anyway, then I had training in a pharmacopoeia.
What were you studying in college?
chemical engineering.
Okay, all right.
Well, actually, I was, yeah, chemical engineering because you could co-op in that
Sure.
branch. So anyway, we went to maneuvers in Louisiana and Blackbird, Virginia. We went to mountain training, also rock climbing and rappelling and those things. We shipped out 2nd of March, 1944. And I forget the name of the ship. I thought I knew it, but I forget it. And we went through the Panama Canal, and everybody got sick going down there on that leg on the eastern seaboard. But through the Panama Canal and across the Pacific, it took more than a month because the ship was every 5 minutes or so would tack a different way. And we arrived at Papua New Guinea, and I think Oro Bay. And it was the 7th of April, 44. And so then we began the campaign in New Guinea. And I brought a book along. This is MacArthur's Jungle War, and it explains his strategy. I made a copy of this too. It explains MacArthur's strategy in New Guinea, and this is it. And it shows how we, after one pretty tough battle at Buna, which we were not involved in, MacArthur decided to hedge hop, and that's what he did on the New Guinea coast. And we didn't attack any other entrenched position again until Biak up here, so that was essentially our New Guinea campaign. It took till from say April to September. About 6 months. One of the things that we had in our division, the division memoirs that they wanted us to send, or stories that we wrote, and right now I don't seem to be able to find that. Well, at any rate, I can say in Maffin Bay, one time the sergeant came in and he said, "Corporal Hersman, you'll be medic for a platoon, reconnaissance platoon down the coast." And so the next morning we started down the coast, and after nothing much in the morning, but then we came to a river, and the New Guinean Aborigines were about 20 there at the river, and there was a boatman, dug out canoe, and he took us across 2 or 3 at a time. I was last, and the boatman indicated he'd like to take my pack, and he was a short guy, about like and husky guy. And he took my pack, and we continued on down the coast. And every hour we'd take a break. He'd climb up a coconut tree, my machete, chop down the coconuts, and come down, whop off the top, and give me the coconut juice to drink. See? And about night, he said, well, he was going to go back, and so I figured I had to pay him, you know, and he indicated he would like to have the machetes. So I gave him the machete. He took off and smiling, you know. Pretty nice guy, you know. He, of course, didn't speak English or anything, but, you know, we related, let's say. And then that night we bivouacked, and I woke up to rifle fire and call a medic anytime you hear it. So I crawled. Pitch black, and I crawled along the beach. We were all in slit trenches, and I saying medic, you know, I don't want anybody to stick me. And I got up to where the fellow was that had got shot, and I fixed his leg, like the calf of his leg, with a compress. And I gave him a tourniquet, told him to use it, and not to keep it all the time. Then I went back, and the next day, well, there was a boat that was following us, and we put him on the boat to go back. It was a small boat, like a cabin cruiser, and we went ahead and had no problems at all. And then we turned around, and the next day we went back to camp, and the guys there said, "Hey, you missed it. Bob Hope was here." So then, I might show you then, when we came in to New Guinea here, and went along here to Maffin Bay, and then we were going to go up here to Moritai. It's a small island north of Halmahera. And this is the main Japanese garrison protecting the southern Philippines. And so we bypassed them to go to Moritai and had no resistance. And this happens to be an aerial photograph that was sent to us by Cyril Marr. And these are LCIs, and you can see that they're stuck off the beach. So they had to go in and water pretty deep.
Here's the beach up here.
Yeah, that's Red Beach. In fact, I got a map of that also.
You can see the soldiers in little lines walking.
Yeah, they would be. They would be. Here's the beach here, where we went in. And then what we did, we established a perimeter here, and the engineers moved in to build the airfields for bomber runs into. And then, one occasion, the Japanese would send troops over from Halmahera. And so we had one occasion where I was on a patrol with the medics were attached to the infantry. So when they went on a patrol, they always would have medics along. And not only that, since we were going to be out, maybe for well, at least overnight, we had dogs, one dog, a Doberman pinscher that could sniff the Japanese. And we also had pigeons, carrier pigeons. So I think we were going to use those as well. But it was raining, see. So anyway, at one point, we were going to set up an ambush along the river. And before they were ready, a Japanese flank guard, well, before that happened, the scout came back, and he was white. He said, those trees are waving for a half a mile up and down that river, so that the Japanese were coming in some force to attack our perimeter. This guy came back, he was white. But then we tried to set up an ambush, and a flank guard came into that, and started to spray machine gun bullets, and the fellow with the dog, this was related to me, just leaned over, as cool as cucumbers, and let the dog loose. Really heroic act, I thought. Well, that night, the sergeant put this fellow, the scout, on guard, which possibly shouldn't have done. And he started to go into shock. He was cold and shivering, and so so I got him off that guard duty, and then slept with him to keep him warm there. So that was essentially our time in Muay Thai. And also with that kind of duty, we played a lot of cards, and hit R&R on the beach, that kind of thing. So then we're on to Mindanao, 25th of July, 1945. We went into Parang in Mindanao, and I didn't find it on some of the later maps. But this is where it is. We're going to leave Muay Thai here. And we go in right here in Mindanao, southernmost island of the Philippine Islands. And this is where we go in here. This is Parang. And then from Parang, we're going to go up the Sayre Highway, through Malay up here. We have engaged the Japanese, and they go to the Agusan River Valley in a forested area of Mindanao, and we go by boat from Cagayan de Oro over here to the mouth of the Agusan River. And that's the 1st Battalion. So that's only about 1,000 men. Now to go back to Malay, when we were halfway up there, and we ran into artillery fire. And the artillery was coming in from I think one gun, and I think it was a 77 that the Japanese had. Fortunately, there were some emplacements there that we could get into, but this is a whole battalion that's coming up this way. Well, in fact, a regiment, I guess, and a battalion's about 1,000 men, 1,500 at full strength. 3 of those in a regiment, so it's about a 5,000 man unit. So anyway, the artillery's coming in and so forth, and then at that point, there was some injuries, some people hurt, and I asked for somebody to carry the plasma pack, and then we went up to treat the wounded. And of course now our captain is a doctor, and so he was there as well to treat the wounded and then evacuate them. So we proceeded on up, and the Japanese at that point went over to reassemble at the Agusan River Valley. Oh, and I forgot something. Our artillery pulled in there as well, but the Japanese had this pinpointed. So when they were putting them in there, they were hitting our artillery. So they took some casualties there, but our medical detachment didn't have that responsibility. They had their own medical people. So then up here, we went up the Agusan River Valley. We established a field hospital there, and then I went forward with B Company and C Company and established an aid station. And we had a perimeter up there, and one side there were hills, and the other side was like a cane brake or something, lower land. And we had 3 medical aid men over there, and I was here at the aid station, but I took the patrols, that forward patrols there. And something interesting, see on these patrols, since I got pretty familiar with the area, there were some bananas out there. And I said, "Hey, those are my bananas. Now, I don't want anybody taking those bananas." So next time we were out on a patrol, I thought I was going to let them get a little bit ripe, Well, somebody else got those bananas, and then they call them Shimatsu Shiwi's bananas. Shimatsu Shiwi got your bananas.
Yeah, I see.
So what we should have done was actually take them, but I didn't even think about that at the time. Another thing that happened there was one evening, they called for me for somebody that was injured by a mortar blast up farther up in the valley. And so I went up there, when they had sent a runner back, and the chaplain, he asked to go with me, he came along, and when I got up there, this fellow is on a forward slope of this hill. But it's dark, you can't, Japanese are presumably out there, but anyway, we were pretty quiet, and I tried to give him plasma, couldn't do it because his veins were collapsed. I asked the sergeant to fashion a litter so we could take him back, and they did. He had about 6 or 8 guys on this litter, and took this guy back. And I'm worried because he had so many wounds, and he was bleeding. His head wound, which I was not sure how to handle. And we're about maybe 50 miles from a true hospital. Mine's an aid station. You can run sick call in the morning and so forth with minor illnesses and problems. Anyway, we're coming back. I'm worried, and we're getting close to the first aid station where I would have some light there. And I see a shadowy figure coming up the trail. Coming up this way. Gets closer, the scene. I'm Captain Castro, medical officer of the 110th Guerrilla Detachment of the Philippine Army. He took over. And this guy lived. He's okay. I probably should ask you if you have some questions about it.
You were under fire, either artillery or otherwise, a number of times. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess so. We were fortunate in not. Well, it's one instance on Mindanao, we were a little concerned because we were out. Our pigeons were wet, we couldn't get a message back, and we couldn't go back to the perimeter. So we're out there with these Japanese that are obviously coming to attack our perimeter. And they missed us. They didn't come back for us. They knew we were there because flank guard got away. But they didn't come back. Their mission was to attack the perimeter. And I have to say something else about the Japanese in New Guinea and even so in Muay Thai from Halmahera. They came from Halmahera. A lot of times they didn't have food and they didn't have ammunition. So they would be attacking with bayonets, take a big mortality. And that's what happened toward the end of the war up the Agusan River Valley.
So you spent a number of months there in Mindanao, is that right?
Yeah, I can tell you, that's the reason I had this function. We left the Philippine Islands 26 in November.
So you spent from July to November, but was it all on Mindanao?
Yeah, we stayed there. And the fact of the matter is, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when this campaign wound up at the end of the war, say the war ended, let's see.
Well, that was August, yeah.
August. Well, now they didn't surrender though until September. The Japanese didn't believe that the war was over. So when they surrendered, we went back to what you call R&R at I think at Cagayan de Oro, and there was a pineapple plantation there, Del Monte pineapple plantation. So, and I still love pineapple to this day. We had pineapple every way you can imagine. Pineapple juice for breakfast.
So there were some pineapples there, even
All fields. Yeah, all fields. See, the Japanese wouldn't destroy them, and they probably couldn't eat them until they're ripe.
Yeah.
So they happened to be ripe when we were there.
I see. Okay. What was the toughest battle condition that you were in? Do you remember?
Oh, sure. Well, we were pretty vulnerable in that artillery incident, and even though I wasn't on that side of the river, we had a banzai attack on our perimeter over there. So that was another case where we were under battle conditions.
Did you feel adequately trained for the duties you had to try to perform?
I would have to say that I had pretty good training, and it was all in different kinds of things that you wouldn't even imagine, like tropical diseases, elephantiasis from filariasis and schistosomiasis, and I still remember that because we had pharmacopoeia. Although we didn't have many pharmaceuticals, our only it's not an antibiotic, I guess, but a bactericide was sulfanilamide.
Right.
And you shake that into the wound, and of course it was good. It was pretty good. And so that's primarily what we had. But then you have a circulatory system, so you know what's going on. Now I would say that some of the things you don't learn very much about would be nutrition and those other things that are health involved. But as far as sanitation to try to prevent malaria and the other diseases transmitted by mosquitoes and flies. For instance, on one occasion, I drank some water that I shouldn't have, and ended up with hepatitis A.
Uh-oh.
In fact, I can remember I was so thirsty that I did something that I knew better. I went down to the river, and I was drinking, and I looked up the river, and there was a hut on poles.
Yeah.
So obviously, people living over the water, defecating in the water, so that, and that's, I had to come back from this forward position in the Agusan River So at the end of the war, I wasn't there, but I told the guys up there, I said, I want a carbine and a Jap flag. Maybe you couldn't get a Jap flag, but in fact they did. And I had a carbine, and I brought it home. But I had the idea that I couldn't get ammunition for it, so I sold it, which was a mistake. But I didn't get very much for it. At the time, people were advertising to buy the war souvenirs. So a guy came to the house, and then I sold it. And I had the Jap flag there, and I put the Jap flag on a pile, and I said, "What's that worth?" He said, "Oh, that's another $10." You know, I took it back. I still have it, in fact.
What? How were you occupied? Like in October, November, December, just before you left the Philippines, were there still stragglers out there that they were trying to, Japanese stragglers, they were trying to chase down, or?
No, we didn't. As I say, when we went back to this pineapple plantation, this was R&R.
Okay.
And you may remember, or you may know about the point system.
Yep.
And so some of us had pretty many points, and we're looking to be shipped out early, but it didn't work out that way for a matter of 10 or 15 extra points. And we came back as a unit.
I see. Do you remember how the points, what it was based on?
I was trying to think of that. What it was, maybe, I remember that the number was around 50 or 60.
Mm-hmm.
And so, let's say that was months,
Mm-hmm.
which would give you maybe, I would think it would be months in the theater of operations here.
Yeah, there must have been some other multipliers in there.
Well, citations
Yep.
were 10, I think.
Okay.
I had 2 Bronze Stars, so I had I think I had about 55 or 60 points.
Okay.
And I don't really know what the limit was at the bottom. But as I say, it didn't matter much because we came as a unit.
Yeah.
And some thoughts occur to me now that, well, when we got aboard ship, I guess the purser or the cook or whoever else said, we have enough milk here for one glass a meal for our trip back to the States. That's one option. Your other option is you can have as much milk as you want until it runs out.
Yeah.
What do we take? What do we take? Huh?
Until it runs out.
I don't know, 3 days.
Yeah.
Well, then, we're coming back. And, we left the Philippines 26 November. Now, it only took 15 days. See, before it was more than a month, but see, we're going straight now.
Right.
And
well, did you go out in a convoy when you went out, or did you steam alone?
I think we were alone. I think
Really?
we were alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pretty sure.
Okay. So when you got out, what did you do then?
Well, when I got out, I want to mention this because we departed the Philippines in 11th December, arrived USA, and saw the Golden Gate Bridge. I'll tell you the truth. That was the most beautiful sight that I think I ever seen. And that includes a Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
But anyway, then I was discharged and I went back to school on the GI Bill. Now that was a great thing because before I was going at night and I had subjects to make up to catch the pre-junior class. It was a 5 5-year course, and I had something to make up to have the 2 years and go into the. So I went to school in January. Right after I got home, I went to University of Cincinnati. By the next fall, I was ready to continue on.
Did you find it tough going to school a month after you got back from overseas?
Well, I'll tell you what we found tough. In our 5th year, they said we're going to have what they call comprehensive examinations. And that was going to cover the 5 years, which some of the guys, well, see, it was, well, you know, how long was it? See, it was 8 years since we'd had some of the early stuff.
Yeah.
And so we all, we were all worried, because most of the guys now in that 3rd year were veterans.
Yeah.
And you know, we still get together to this day. The guys from that class are stuck together like glue. Every 3 months we get together.
That's great.
Yeah.
What did you take your degree in then?
What did my degree was chemical engineering.
Okay, and
Now, here's some pictures. That's a picture of me on Muay Thai. And
he used to be good looking, didn't he?
here's one.
I'm just kidding. Very handsome man.
Well, you can tell what happened there. I was dressed to go before a board over there, I guess, you know, they field commission boards and so forth. They used to call those. And then you had to dress up to do that, to go there. But anyway, I was going to show you this here. See. Now, here's a picture of us on Muay Thai. Now this is Jim Childs. He lives up in Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am. This is Roy Schaefer. And this is Cecil Howell. This is Paul Fuller. No, it's Charlie Levitt. This is Paul Fuller. And this is Wilbur Floyd. We call him Pinky. And when I went to some of the reunions, I went to look for these guys. And so I posted this. And I found Whitey, Cecil Howell. Because I lost him because he lived, the roster said Foley, Alabama, and he moved to Mobile. And I posted this, and some guy at a reunion, not of my unit, of some other unit over there, said, I'll look for him. He was from Alabama. He said, I'll look for him. He said, I'll find him and I'll let you know. Sure enough, he did. And so I went down to visit him. Now this here, see, I mentioned to you, but I went back and asked for plasma, carried plasma. This guy did it. His name was Ned Van Landingham.
This guy right there, huh?
Yeah. Now he's very sick. See, when I visited him in Florida, he was like in a day bed.
Oh, really?
And his wife was here. She was taking care of him. And I talked about this reunion, but he had no idea whatsoever that he could come. They brought him. This is his son, Mike, I think his name is. And he brought him up here. And then it was a fabulous thing. I know that he appreciated it so much. You know. But now he has passed away. And then just last Memorial Day, I was up there at the memorial, and I saw this other fellow, Cleve. He goes to our church. So we were standing there when the local newspaper took the picture.
That's cool. Now, where did you, what was your career then after the war?
Well, after
you graduated?
After I graduated, I was in the co-op program at the University of Cincinnati. I graduated in '49, and you wouldn't remember this, I don't imagine, but there was a kind of a recession.
Mhm.
It's a little hard to get a job. And so I stayed with General Motors. I was co-oping there, and my boss said, you're gonna come to work for us now as we graduate, you know? I said, what would I be doing? He said, you can take your choice. We have 8 jobs for you. And so I took a choice of process specifications that set the specifications for the plant, chemical operations, chemical cleaning, and that kind of thing. And I don't know whether this was by design or happenstance, but there was another chemical engineer that came up there, I'm co-oping. Jill.
She was a chemical engineer back then?
Yeah,
You were one of a kind, weren't you?
I was the only one that
Yeah.
passed.
She was testing the baths, see, and the chemical cleaning and that sort of thing. So, and I was up kind of high in one part of the building, and I could actually see the plant, you know. So I'd see her go down the aisle with her little test kit. I thought, boy, I thought, that's that girl that was at the football films when Sid Gilman sent the football films on UC. And sure enough, you know. And at the time, I was saving money for a car. I didn't have any money. So I was walking back and forth to work from downtown. And she was riding a bus. She was rich, but she saw me there. And pretty soon, she would be out. She came out of the plant way up there, see, and I came out here. And I saw her one time, and I thought, I can catch her. So
Just that fast, that.
yeah, walked right up there and caught her. Later, she told me she wasn't walking very fast.
Yeah. So, when were you married? Oh, that's an unfair question.
June the 30th, 1951,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
That was trouble, right
Yeah.
I bet you studied that last night.
there. So,
I bet
I don't
you
have
studied
this.
that.
I don't have this on my timeline.
Did you remain then with General Motors?
The what?
Did you remain with General Motors?
No. 1951, my father died, and my mother lived here in Cincinnati.
Mhm.
And so I came back to Cincinnati, and I worked for Vulcan Cincinnati, an engineering company on
Yeah.
Sycamore. And I really enjoyed that. I started in a pilot plant there, and it was ethylene oxide pilot plant. They had various kinds of different processes that they would develop and then sell or hopefully produce someplace. And from the pilot plant, I went to, let's see, I think the first thing I did was go to Houston, Folger Coffee Company, and that was before Procter & Gamble owned them, to work on some extractors we had for soluble coffee.
Right.
We had sold them at Folgers, and bring them up to specifications.
Mhm.
And subsequently other jobs in Berlin, New Hampshire for Brown Company. They had hardwood sulfide waste liquor process and dumping into the Androscoggin River. Well, that wasn't so bad, but the fact is the Androscoggin River runs out of Maine, and then it runs back into Maine. So I'm pretty sure those guys said, hey, what are you doing to our river?
Yeah.
So we tried to clean that up, and then later on we built a urea plant for Standard Oil of Ohio, Lima.
So you stayed with Vulcan, did you all this time?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I left Vulcan. Well, it's kind of interesting there. If you, the next urea, that was 120 tons a day, And then I was project engineer on another one, 270 tons a day in Taiwan.
Oh, really?
And so we had Chinese come from Taiwan to, and I guess in effect, look over our shoulders to see that we were doing things okay. I have a good friend today that he was a liaison engineer. He lives in New York now, and I see him on rare occasions. But, what happened was that they said, well, we're ready to ship, and when would you be ready to go? I said, well, we can be ready in a week, you know? And he said, what do you mean week? I said, well, I have to take my wife and my little boy. I said, well, you can't do that because contract says nothing like this on a 6-month job, and we figured it's 6 months. But it took us more than a year to build a plant in you know, in Lima, where I had a lot of contacts, and in Taiwan, you know, got a language barrier, and you don't understand the customs and so forth. It's going to take about 2.5, 3 years to build it. So I wouldn't go if they wouldn't let her in. Baby go, I wouldn't go. So needless to say, you know, my star was dimming. So I left there, I went to U.S. Industrial Chemicals and Research, and then joined a friend who had got me the job with Vulcan in the first place, Cliff Fisher Industrial Equipment. There about 20 years.
Okay.
And well, Cliff died, and I had a that business for a while. And then I bought the engineering section and had my own company.
Okay.
And we had 5 children.
How do you, when you look back at your military service, how do you feel about it? And how do you feel that it affected the rest of your life, your attitudes?
Oh, I forgot something. When I got out of school, there's something else I did. I got a commission in the Navy.
Oh, you did?
So I was in the Navy for, yeah. Discharged from the Navy. Yeah, I guess, you know, you see, how did it affect me? Well, frankly, I thought we were going to have a war with Russia.
Did you serve any active duty in the Navy or just?
No, just reserve. I was a training officer at Division 499 during the Korean War.
Mm-hmm.
So we had plebes go from Dayton to Great Lakes Naval Training Station. But they did take pretty much of the staff, and I left the executive officer, the chief, the commanding officer, and a training officer. I was training officer. Well, I was committed to the military, I guess.
It sounds like it. How about your family, your children and grandchildren? Have they ever, what level of interest have they ever expressed in your World War II service?
Well, they're interested, but let's also say they were lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Because the timing was such that they weren't too young. They were too young for the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Didn't Michael say that his number was getting up there, but then the Vietnam War ended.
Mm-hmm.
And of course now they're 50 years old. So
is there anything else that you'd like to, that comes to your mind that you'd like to get on the record? Some experience you might have had somewhere along the line in your active duty?
an experience that I had, I don't know
Something
whether.
we didn't talk about.
Well, I wonder if this would come under that heading. I read a poem.
Go ahead.
It's called The Other Guy. The strength of our country is the strength of the bond between one and another of soldiers at arms the man in the service is willing to die, but believing at heart that it's the other guy who will lay down his life for his country. Nobody thinks he'll get killed. When the day rolls around in May of the year, in a minute of silence, we remember the one who came up on our side and protected our flank. It's the other guy we have to thank for our children, our grandchildren, our beautiful wives. The other guy, he saved our lives. I hope and pray to live for him and do some things he may have done. Aspire to heights he may have won. Appreciate the stars at night. Remember how we won the fight to keep our country strong.
When did you write that?
5/25/2002.
Okay.
I put the date on.
Mr. Hersman, what was the occasion that, had you been putting the ideas together, or what brought this to a head in 2002 for you, to write this
Brought
poem?
it there. Well, Joel, I think, for one thing, let me say this, that I attended the Institute for Learning and Retirement at the University of Cincinnati, and the monitor was Mrs. Osher, and we wrote some things, and at one point, I guess maybe the assignment was a poem or something, and I wrote a poem, and then she said, from now on, you write poetry. So that was an assignment, and so I started to write poetry at the university. And
Did you know he was a poet?
Well, he was taking these classes there.
I'm talking about long ago.
You what?
I asked if she knew
Oh.
you were a poet years ago.
Well,
I wasn't
he
years
just
ago.
started it when he started taking those
Okay,
classes.
all right. So you can teach an old dog new tricks, huh?
Yeah, that's after I retired. And then this here, you know, as you know, all you have usually are ribbons.
Okay.
Where are they? Here they are.
Sure.
See? Like this. And this is Asiatic-Pacific here. But you never see the medals. But these guys do this. See, they sew medals. And I've been showing the fellows that I meet with, we have an organization of some of the guys that were in the service. Some have really very interesting stories. And we call it the Association for the Preservation of Saloon Food. And so we meet in the saloon over here called Lake Nina's. It's off Banning Road.
Sounds like a pretty serious organization.
It's what?
Sounds like a pretty serious organization you've got going there.
The question is, why would you want to preserve
Saloon food?
But it's good.
Yeah.
Biggest piece of fish you'll ever see.
Say what?
It's the biggest piece of fish I've ever seen.
You know it.
Yes, sir.
That's a fact.
Only been there one time. I never forgotten that fish.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, this is funny. The waitress, when I went over there, I was kind of new, you know. I said, I'll take the fish sandwich. And she said, no, you don't want the fish sandwich. She said, I want you to take the fish dinner. And she said, I'll bring you 2 pieces of bread, but the fish dinner costs less than the fish sandwich.
It's a strange place.
Go on, cut for a minute.
Up in the Agusan River Valley, I think that we had appropriated the hutment of the farmer that lived there, and he was not there any longer. And it was on the side of the hill, and on some stilts, and it was like a balcony in the front, and that's where I held sick call. The guys would come up out of the bivouac down below. There's a river over here, and our perimeter goes around on the other side. Well, we were having sick call one day, and they had a bullet goes through there, and the shot, you know, you heard it hit a gun. And I walked over to the railing on this balcony, and I looked down on a campsite, probably, you know, 40 or 50 tents down there, because our perimeter was covered by the Filipinos there. Perimeter over on the other side of the river is covered by our guys. So anyway, I shouted down there, "You're cleaning those rifles, you're going to kill somebody." So, and I never gave it another thought. I walked back, and then I'm still holding sick call, and this one,
Uh-oh.
and a bullet and went into this girder there. Well, it's like a log, but there was an island that intersected our perimeter in the river.
Okay.
And I never even thought about that, and I'm sure that nobody else did. But the Japanese had gotten into the upper end of that island, and he came down there and he took 2 shots at me. Now, I don't think he was a sharpshooter, because he didn't have that far to shoot, really, and I didn't get hit. So. But he was after me.
Okay.
And then sometime later I learned that they did mark our captain got shot. That was another instance when we were moving and on the road, and the major got shot, and the captain went up to take care of him, and he got shot. Our captain did, in the back, but he didn't get killed. So, but he was shipped out and discharged. And then sometime later I wrote him a letter, and he wrote me back. I have that letter, you know. But we liked each other.
Did he come out okay finally?
Did he what?
Did he recover fully?
Well, he told me that it was really difficult for him to finish medical school. And he told me that they had two children. And he was glad that I wrote him and so forth. He lives up in New Jersey, I think.
Okay, 2 kids, nothing vital got hit, huh?
That's right.
Okay, well, this has been a very interesting story. We really appreciate you coming in, Mr. Hersman, and helping with this whole project. And thanks a great deal.
I'm glad that you asked me to do it.